Hi, I'm Eric and I do everything like boom, only motherfucking Street Fighter. This game is awesome, but there is one problem. Where's the hot anime girls? You don't understand, Timmy. It's important. Guilty Gear. One day, Arc System Works was like, what if we combine hot anime characters, Street Fighter, and a frick ton of heavy metal music? That's right, move over mortal lame bat. This is Guilty Gear. And boy did it have some weird games in the past. And when I say weird, I do mean weird. But for now, let's talk about the first era of Guilty Gear, starting with Guilty Gear on the PS1. This game came out during the time when fighting games were dominated by Capcom and SNK. And the fact that Guilty Gear was able to make an impact despite that is really notable, with the main thing that set it apart being just how unique and awesome the whole concept really was. Boom, looks, instead of the typical normal weapons like yarn, fists, and swords, we got frickin' anchors, explosions, and hair combos. Frickin' hair combos. That's right, hair whip boom, hair whip boom, hair whip boom. And it's not only the looks and overall weapons that are so unique, but it's also the music as well. Most soundtracks had that tempo upbeat cheesiness we all know and love, but not this game. This game features heavy metal music with dirty sounding sound effects, which perfectly contrasts with the fast and aggressive gameplay this game has to offer. And speaking of the gameplay, my goodness, yes, it is so smooth, oh so smooth. And while the gameplay isn't anything you have not seen before, with typical combos, jumps, and super moves, it is so agile and fast that you won't even notice that the background is nothing but a JPEG snooze fest. Now, this is where we get to the bad stinky part of the game. What the frick am I supposed to do? That's right, where are the modes for this game? All we have is a generic story, a versus mode, option mode, and training mode? It took you 3 years to make this game arc. Couldn't you at least thrown in some extra modes? The characters are so cool and unique. A gallery showcasing concept art of the characters would have been so awesome. But no, you instead wanted to make a quick 30-minute story mode with characters with underwhelming boss battles that you can't even play in the story mode afterwards. Why? Well, all rants aside, I can understand why, since this game clearly focused on ensuring a foundation and smooth gameplay rather than a detailed and accomplished story mode. And you know what? I would consider it a compliment. In fact, my only complaint is, well, why couldn't they do more with the game? I mean, they got the foundation established, so the next game must be great, right, Timmy? What? Speak the frick up, Taco Bell reject. You know what? Screw it. Guilty Gear S. Okay, listen folks, this is pretty much the same thing as the first Guilty Gear game, but a tiny bit better with virtually no improvements, which in a way kinda makes sense, considering this game is just a port of the Dreamcast game from 2000 that got ported on the PlayStation 2 and became non-Japanese exclusive 2 years later. We got bam, new characters, bam, better graphics, bam, 1 or 2 moves and techniques. But what compels me to buy this over, ooh, shiny new game when the first game is just the same thing but with a tiny bit more? What is this, frickin' FIFA? Am I being mean? Yeah, I'm being way too mean. I'm being way too mean to frickin' FIFA. This game had 3 ports of the same thing. Yes, the same frickin' thing. Guilty Gear S Plus, Guilty Gear S Advanced Edition, and Guilty Gear version 1.5. The latter two, I can understand why they exist. They are simply just ports of the game that were clearly just thrown on with minor changes to appeal to people who want these games on different consoles. But why the frick do you exist, Mr. Guilty Gear S Plus? Were you really needed? Like, really needed? No, screw you! This game is just an improved port of the game on the same console that feels like an improved port of the first game. Yeah, it's a bit better, I mean, 2 more characters, improved story mode, and missions, but I want something big. I want something new and unique. As of right now, it feels like the same as FIFA and the new Super Mario Bros. Series. It's the same thing over and over again with minor changes. Oh really, Timmy? Ooh, that sounds awesome. Let's check it out. Huh? Why, Timmy? Yeah, I guess you're right. Heavy metal music is freaking awesome out loud. Well, let's check this out. Timmy? My ears are bleeding, Timmy. And I'm hearing impaired, Timmy. Screw you. Speaking of frickin', frick Guilty Gear Petit. Not. Despite the awful music, and I do mean awful, I found a ton of enjoyment from this game. It looks so simple and cute, yet somehow it maintains its lengthy combo structure and aggressive gameplay. But there is one slight small problem. It's a spin-off, right? Then why isn't it different than any other mainline series games? Like, am I missing something? Am I going crazy? I asked for originality. You give me the same freaking thing again! This was the era where Guilty Gear just felt the same with 1 or 2 new characters and 1 or 2 new things added. Whoa, cool, but give me something else, not the same thing over and over again. You know, for a series as creative and awesome as Guilty Gear, it appalls me that it's not doing anything different than what Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat has done, which is equally as annoying. Yeah, frick you, who the frick are you, and go to the frickin' depths of hell, motherfricker. I just don't want you to do the same thing over and over again with minor improvements each time. That's what Street Fighter did, that's what Mortal Kombat did. You're the anime fighting game, you don't need to do that. My gosh, try something new, try to be creative for once in your life. I'm creative, I don't rip off anything. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, this game flows. Thankfully, there is one game that shook up the Guilty Gear franchise, causing the Guilty Gear franchise to really start becoming more popular among hardcore fighting fans due to new mechanics and other elements, and that is Guilty Gear S2 and the various remakes it got over the years. Firstly, the first game, I'll be honest, a lot of the core mechanics are the same fighting-wise, which is perfect because that was definitely the strong suit of the previous games, but they really went all out with some of the characters they added to this game. Vampire with a pipe, a witch with an electric guitar, a stereotypical British person with a frickin' yo-yo. Yo, that's freaking awesome! Yeah, they not only went really all out with the characters of this game, but they also made the story mode much more interesting this time. That's right, instead of doing seemingly random battles for no reason like it felt like in every other previous game, there is an actual story I actually care about. Whoa, an anime fighting game with an actual story? It's the opposite of freaking Jump Force. Guilty Gear 2 finally felt like an actual game rather than some sort of port. But guess what? They did the same freaking thing again, but with Guilty Gear SS, with not only 2, not 3, but with 4 different ports, and they're all on the same console. Guilty Gear SS Reload, Guilty Gear SS Slash, Guilty Gear SS Core, and Guilty Gear SS Core Plus. All of these games are much better than the original, no doubt about that. They add some more missions, characters, and an improved survival mode. But if you wanted these improvements, you had to pay the full price of this game. Sure, it's not like they could have just magically added new characters and balance changes back then. It was impossible to do so. But with that being said, why not just spend all that time and money making a new game rather than slightly improving it and charging full price? Smash Bros didn't do that, it's just you. Yes, you. Well, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat did that too, but still, bad Guilty Gear. Boom. To bring this point home and finally start complaining about the same thing over and over again, despite the game following Guilty Gear S2 being better, they are reviewed worse and hated on much more by the majority of people despite that small poop fighting game pros. Which, there's nothing wrong with that, but the small poop fighting game pros are just a small minority. Yeah, you mentioned that right, Timmy. Ooh, this is gonna be awesome.
要するに賞金首だよな。何やらかしたんだよ。
そうじゃねえ。タチの悪い呼び出しだ。
Oh, Guilty Gear, Guilty Gear, Guilty Gear. When I say do something creative, when I say do something amazing, I didn't mean make a Dynasty Warrior clone. Frickin' dum-dum. Dum-dum to lollipop. You wanna know what else that sucks? Guilty Gear. What the heck is this? It's like, really, what the heck is this? What identity crisis caused this? Are you a mindless button matcher, a fighting game, some sort of strategy wannabe, or a total snooze fest? Actually, you know what? Screw that. You're all of them. This game is so bad, not even in a fun, bad, horrible, hee hee ha ha kind of way. But oh my goodness, it takes forever to defeat an enemy, as your attacks hardly do any damage, which for a hack and slash game focusing on defeating hordes of enemies at once, what's wrong with you? And guess what? If the fact that attacks take forever weren't bad enough, you are slow in this game. And worst of all, enemies can fall down without dying, causing you to have to wait 4 seconds in order for them to attack and get up, which somehow makes them invincible as well. Like, why? And don't get me started on the looks. You, bandana guy. No. And you, pretty white-haired boy. You hate those guys? Well, I hate you. You're like a K-pop and generic anime protagonist 20 had a baby and spawned the most dull and boring word out there. Bleh. And it's just a shame. This game had so much potential. The story is absolutely amazing. And if done right, this could have been the game that redefined Guilty Gear. But no, it's awful. It's just awful. No! Yeah, like the DS game Pro Jumper Guilty Gear Taken, which, well, you know what? I'm not gonna even bother. Anyway, the majority of Guilty Gear spin-off games were pretty much either underwhelming or wasted potential. However, there is one Guilty Gear spin-off game that I actually really like. Let me introduce you to Guilty Gear Judgment. This game perfectly gives that player that aggressive combat style and moves we all know and love, but throws it into a side-scrolling beat-em-up game, which, controversial opinion, fits the Guilty Gear series much better than a typical fighting game. And it's not your average beat 'em up game. Oh no, it's actually really unique. As there's just not that many beat 'em ups out there that have that unique move stuff you can only get from Guilty Gear. It is fast and flashy. Boom explosion, boom explosion. This is awesome. Unfortunately though, this game did not do well, which is such a shame because this was my favorite game to play out of the Guilty Gear series, believe it or not. Thankfully, it was around that time where Guilty Gear started finally going back to its roots and started not feeling so microtransacty and greedy all the time. Take Guilty Gear S3 for example. It goes back to that assist button layout, but also implements its more chaotic and fast elements like the all-new homing dash. This, as well as other changes, really made the game notable among both casual and hardcore Guilty Gear fans, as the casual market has a new game to enjoy on a new console, while hardcore players don't have to spend that much time experimenting and figuring out how the overall game works. Guilty Gear S3 Relevator and its revision play more as a sequel rather than another game with minor improvements, which is something I'm personally fine with, especially since these were the games that finally united all the Guilty Gear fans together and introduced a ton of new fans as well. That's right, everyone was happy, everyone was awesome, so when a new Guilty Gear game was announced, everyone started pressing that hype button. Hype my frickin' butt cheeks, you! All joking aside, despite that disaster, this game is amazing. Dare I say not only one of the best anime fighting games, but one of the best fighting games of all time. It's competitive without being too complex for newcomers to the series. It is absolutely stunning, and the characters are much more unique and awesome as well. There is no doubt in my mind this game revolutionized what anime fighting games should be in the future. And trust me, I played a ton of weird, bad, amazing, and obscure anime fighting games over the years. Lost of obscure and fun fighting games. And this was my favorite one yet. Yeah, this game is controversial due to the fact that the gameplay isn't exactly the same as the previous games, causing some hardcore fans to be angered, as well as the fact that, oh boy, the lobbies and online aspect of the game is downright horrible. Like really, really horrible. You know what though? This game and series is severely underrated. And despite its problems, it's really nice to see a dedicated fan base for a series as underrated and underappreciated as Guilty Gear is nowadays, which is something we really have not seen much back then besides some hardcore fans willing to pay full price for every small update. I know this video is more controversial among the more hardcore Guilty Gear fans, but in a sense, they have a point too. Guilty Gear Strive is something different. It is more casual. It does have its loading times issues. My gosh, the loading times issues. I just wish Guilty Gear didn't try to appeal to that small fighting game fans. I want it to be as casual as possible, and that's the direction they're going, so yay! At the end of the day, whether you like the new direction Guilty Gear is going or not, either way, you shouldn't feel guilty about your opinion.